The 90s were a turbulent time where world powers were shifting and Prospect was appreciating Seinfeld for the masterpiece that it was. The students of Prospect put up with numerous renovations alongside citizens of the United States, albeit theirs was on a much larger scale. To learn about the half-decade in which the angst was born, we must take a closer look. In politics and national events, the Cold War ended with the collapse of the Soviet Union as Mikhail Gorbachev stepped down. The war that never had any actual fighting despite lasting nearly half of a century finally comes to a close. This also brings a final end to the Second Red Scare because of the fact that communism no longer had a stigma around it that made it scary, and the largest communist threat had fallen. Fortunately, during this time, a select group of Prospect students were extremely aware of what was going on in the world, seeing as the debate team won the state title that year, as well as the next 2 years consecutively. Rodney King was beaten by police officers in one of the most famous cases of police brutality ever caught on film. The release of the video sparked outrage, ultimately sparking a violent protest from the public, which included looting and property damage that amounted to over $1 billion. This is the incident that truly brought police brutality to the national stage and caused people to pay more attention to the subject. In the wake of all this, a black awareness group was started at Prospect this same year. And finally, Bill Clinton beat George H.W. Bush, beginning an era of left-leaning policies in America. As stated above, increased gun legislation was enacted during the Clinton presidency, which still is seen as the foundation of many of today's laws for firearms. He even passed some controversial legislation, which in its own were more important, but his overall presidency split this era in two because of the stark differences between the Democratic and Republican presidencies of 1990 and 1994. To highlight the highly contentious nature of such an election, Prospect held its first mock election in 1992. This long-standing Prospect tradition has continued even today. The early 90s was a great decade of technological advancements and economic prosperity. The economy allowed for technology and science to advance at a rate no one had seen before. This economy affected everyone in Prospect High School.
So, the economy wasn't exactly great at the time I had graduated high school. My father had to go back to work after retiring just to make more money, and it seemed like we were on a downturn in terms of how the economy was as a whole.
After the 1980s recession, the United States experienced an American economic boom from early 1991 to 2001. This was due to the normal business cycle and the rapid technological advances that were happening at the time. More jobs were created, the unemployment rate went down, household incomes increased, and stocks grew in value. People started buying more and invested in new technologies like the computer and the internet. The World Wide Web was first thought out by Tim Berners-Lee in 1980. Tim and his friends spent 10 years creating CERN, the first web browser, and in 1990 the World Wide Web was first tested out in the United States. Over time, the internet became more and more popular to the point that it is today. Things like Yahoo, Google, Facebook, and other forms of entertainment and social media emerged. The World Wide Web changed the way that we communicate, store information, educate ourselves, and entertain ourselves. Without the internet, Prospect would not have been able to install the computerized card catalog system in the library in 1992.
In 1992, District 214 installed a system of computers in the libraries of all 6 district schools. The computers were used to catalog the library's books and to make it easier for students to find the books. The program sorted the books by author, title, edition, publication, physical description, location, subject, and volume number. This system was only one of the many technological advancements and discovery that emerged from the early 90s at Prospect High School.
In the early 90s, the United States launched the Hubble Space Telescope, sold the first genetically modified food in the open market, and the Human Genome Project was started, and dark energy was first discovered. In the end, the early 90s advanced the human race greatly through its technological advancements. The early 90s was a prime time for sports, including such stars as Michael Jordan and Earvin Magic Johnson. During this time, Prospect had a few of their own sports stars when the badminton team won the South Division Championship for the 16th consecutive year in 1994. Sports were used for more than just competition. They were used to reach a broader audience. This was made apparent when Magic Johnson revealed to the public that he had tested positive for HIV. This announcement, along with the death of lead singer of the band Queen, Freddie Mercury, had begun to shift the stigma surrounding AIDS-HIV epidemic. Groups like the AIDS Awareness Club were formed at Prospect to continue to end the stigma around these diseases. Social issues were not the only thing that were broadcast because of sports, however. Although Michael Jordan launched his brand Air Jordan in 1985, its popularity continued to skyrocket throughout the 90s, making the Nike the iconic brand it is today. Like Nike, a few fashion trends took the 90s by storm.
So the 90s brought a whole different fashion trend. A lot of what you saw was overalls, especially with one side of the overalls hanging down. And there was also a lot of stuff like people wearing CK1, which was some sort of perfume that both boys and girls wore, and it didn't really smell that good.
Hip-hop and grunge fashion. With the birth of new music genres came with a new set of subcultures. While hip-hop came with bright and baggy clothes, grunge fashion was full of dark colors, ripped jeans, boots, band t-shirts, and flannels. With the new fashion trends came a new set of rules introduced by Prospect. In 1990, hats were banned from being worn in schools in District 214. Music has influenced the way people have acted and dressed. However, the death of music's icons impact people even more. The death of Kurt Cobain, for example, struck a chord with the youth of America during 1994. He committed suicide on April 5, 1994. His lasting impact on the music scene has put him in the spotlight as one of the most famous musicians of the era. His creation of the grunge genres placed Cobain as one of the most influential people of the 90s overall. It was a shame for him to die so young, at young age of 27 years old. In other pop culture, movies such as Schindler's List were instant hits. Schindler's List is one of the most influential movies of all time. The film told the story of Holocaust survivors during a time where the Holocaust was considered a minor aspect of World War II, and was taught as such. After the release of the film, which received 7 Academy Awards, the Holocaust was seen in a different light.
It was a very accurate portrayal of the events that happened in Nazi Germany to all the Jews, and it was very powerful and moving, and I think it's something that most people should see.
Schools taught the Holocaust as its own topic, along with an emphasis on values, judgment, and decision-making. The major reaction is largely due to Spielberg's directing it. Everyone wanted to see a film by the famous director. Spielberg believed that Thomas Keneally's book, the basis for the movie, needed to be put into a film and shown to the world. At Prospect High School, things were also changing regarding accepting others. The school opened their first Black Awareness Club and Spanish Club in 1992, in addition to their first International Fest in 1993 and Multicultural Awareness Club. Students were learning to celebrate their differences in a healthy way, leading to more understanding and care in their generation. Prospect still has Spanish Club today, as well as other clubs like Feminist Club and Girls Who Code, who share this theme. On a lighter note, Jurassic Park, also directed by Steven Spielberg, was a huge change in cinema. Most filmmakers didn't want to use computer-generated images because they were risky and expensive. When Jurassic Park used CGI to create the dinosaurs, it received an incredible response. People loved that they could see things like dinosaurs incredibly realistically. People wanted more of this new style of artwork. This was a huge spark in CGI-based movies, inspiring even Toy Story, a classic, which came out 2 years afterwards. Prospect High School also had a new appreciation for artwork and how it affected students, considering they added a new art credit requirement towards graduating in 1990. Prior to then, fine art courses were still available for those interested, but there was no need to in order to graduate. This was an important change to make in order to help students become well-rounded and experience other topics. This requirement was so beneficial to students that it is still in place currently 27 years later.